I know we're gearing up for the release of Ascended Heroes on January 29th, but who cares about the present when the future seems so much brighter? Japan underwent their yearly standard format rotation this past Friday, where all the G-Block cards were removed. That meant things like Gardevoir, Charizard, Pidgeot, Nestball, and most of all Ino were no longer playable, creating a massive shakeup. While it's only been a single weekend and the landscape will look massively different when rotation hits us on March 26th, I enjoy milking my subscribers so much that I wanted to get this preview out now. Using data compiled by Pokécomic, the top 3 decks so far post-rotation are Mega Lucario, Dragapult, and Mega Starmie, like we all predicted. These are followed by Festival Grounds Dipplin, Garchomp EX, Team Rocket's Honchkrow, and Grimmsnarl in A tier. That previous tier list looked at the top 16 finishes in tournaments. Breaking it down by top 4 finishes only, Starmie is actually number 1 with Dragapult in second. Basically, things went halfly expected with Lucario and Dragapult doing really well, while Starmie and Dipplin were complete surprises. Since only one of those decks is new, we'll start with the card arriving in perfect order on March 26th. Put simply, Mega Starmie EX is one of those decks that benefits from the new format being as wide open as a Guzzlord's mouth. In Japan, Festival Grounds Dipplin had a lot of hype surrounding it going into rotation. Same with Team Rocket's Spidop since it has access to Archer, the best hand reshuffler now that Ino's gone. Well, both of those suck huge butts against Frostlass due to their low HP and whole having abilities thing. In fact, most decks aside from Dragapult have a tough time against Frostlass because card draw will be at a premium without Ino. And the only way to reliably draw cards is by using someone with an ability who Frostlass eats for dinner like a nice butt. I think the reason why I didn't properly predict Starmie's playability was due to the fact that I viewed it through the lens of our current format, not a post-rotation one. Mega Starmie's weak to Lightning, except Lightning decks lose arguably their best cards in Miraidon, Iron Hands, and Electric Generator. Iron Hands with a Future Booster would have been an easy way to one-shot Mega Starmie for 3 prizes. The Patrick Starfish doesn't have to worry about that anymore. Then there's Shaman, who in a perfect world protects your single prize bench sitters from the 50 damage. While Flower Curtain does stop them from getting jet blown, Shaman itself is maybe surviving 2 turns against Frostlass and Munkidori. So any deck running weak single prizers with abilities loses to semi-competent Frostlass players, because they'll just hold back their Megas and let Baby Frostlass, Munkidori, and Badoo do all the work. When I tweeted about Mega Starmie's early success, a few people helped explain why it's been so useful early. Basically, it's that Starmie's a stage 1 Grimmsnarl with more HP and no ability who also attacks for the same energy as Mega Frostlass. The upfront damage of Starmie is lower than Grimmsnarl's, but the bench damage is increased by 20. Plus, not having to fiddle around with a stage 2 and Spike Myth like you're trying to undo a bra on a mannequin at Sears to see what's underneath saves space in your deck for more consistency. Really, the only downside to Mega Starmie over Grimmsnarl, aside from the extra prize it gives up, is the fact that you have to manually attach for turn rather than using an ability to power it up. For an early list, by far the most popular partner is Frostlass. It has more wins than I can count on my toes or yours, and even with the loss of Countercatcher, it still slaps. While some go with a 3-3 or 3-2 Starmie line, lessening the Snowrun count to 3 in the process, we all know the horrors of PTCGL prizing. So 4 Snowrun is the way to go. The funny thing is there's not really any spice. Shaman helps in the mirror and against Wellspring Masked Ogerpon, but that's about it. On the supporter side, 4 Lilies is a must, but Crispin and Hilda are equally important. Crispin allows you to power up a Munkidori and Starmie or Frostlass in the same turn, while Hilda finds an evolution and any energy. To that end, you could include Legacy Energy as your A-Spec instead of Unfair Stamp, or Prime Catcher as item-based Gust, leaving you a supporter for turn. In terms of stadiums, Japanese players are including both Risky Ruins and Surfing Beach. Risky Ruins puts more damage into play that you can move with Munkidori, while Surfing Beach ensures your multiple water types don't get stuck in the active like my stepsister in the washing machine. Now, I'm not going to call Mega Starmie a fraudulent deck. I'm just going to say that I think it's highly possible it isn't as dominant in 2 months when Perfect Order and Rotation come to us. Because all it takes is a good Lightning deck to show up and ruin this thing's entire existence. Or such a card doesn't exist and everyone must bow down to the creepy starfish. Like me, when For the Win uploads a video on his second channel with the VTuber model instead of his glorious face, it's not hard to see why Mega Lucario is arguably the best post-rotation deck. It loses nothing and has easy access to Pokemon-based Draw and Gust. Turn 1, Lunatone draws 3 cards and Solrock can KO a weak basic. Turn 2, you can attack with Mega Lucario, either dealing 130 damage and accelerating 3 energy, or being Mega Brave and one-shotting something bigger. Then instead of worrying about boss's orders, you just evolve into Hariyama, gust up whoever you want, and continue taking prizes. To make the deck stronger, there's Premium Power Pro to increase all of your attackers' damage, Fighting Dong to find a basic or energy, and Pokepad to get your basics or Harry Mama. In a format with a limited card pool like the one we're going to enter in March, consistency is key. And while Lucario has always had that, stupid Gardevoir held it back. Now that the 4th hottest Pokemon has gone from standard, Lucario can finally let its aura shine. There's not much else to talk about, so here's the typical list of a winning Mega Lucario deck post-rotation. Yeah, it's more basic than an uppercase EX. Aside from replacing Ino with Judge, this is almost how you'd build Lucario right now. It's strong throughout the entire game and can take easy prizes on fighting weak Pokemon like Fezandipiti and Meowth while also building up to KO other Megas with Mega Brave. The only real flex card is Cornerstone Masked Ogerpon. Lucario can power it up with Aura Jab, giving you a way to wall ability decks. Otherwise, consistency all over their face, heal off damage with Wally's Compassion to frustrate them, and use Team Rocket's Watchtower to shut off their Dunsparce and Noctowl and Fanrotom and Ursaluna and Meowth EX. Oh, and if you're worried about Alakazam, include a copy or two of Rock Fighting Energy to prevent effective attacks and win that matchup 100% of the time. If you were to ask me what the best post-rotation deck was going to be, I would have said Dragapult. But like my old dog who keeps sniffing the wrong butts, that was short-sighted. Rotation hit it a little harder than I thought. Don't get me wrong, it's still tier 1. I just assumed it'd be S tier with no Zendaya tennis movie that had super misleading marketing. Anyway, Countercatcher and Ino are massive losses for Dragapult. Not being able to stick your opponent low after they KO a couple Badoo while you fill your hand hurts. As for Countercatcher, if they want to gust somebody up instead of hitting your active, they need to play bosses now, not an item. And then there's Hawlucha, the unsung hero of the deck. The 10 damage from flying entry meant you could Phantom Dive 6 damage counters to a Psyduck one turn, then clean it up during your next turn, thus activating your Dusclops and Dusknoir. Well, Psyduck still exists, but Hawlucha doesn't, ruining Dragapult's favorite partner. As a result, the list is a little different post-rotation. I sifted through all the first place decks and it appears the most successful partner is Noctowl. While the first 5 I found couldn't agree on the exact list, the bones are the same. Wellspring Masked Ogerpon to prevent retreat early and snipe the bench late, Fanrotom to go to Hooters and take a cheeky early KO, and Crispin plus Sparkling Crystal to power up your attackers. If you're wondering where Dusclops and Dusknoir are, don't worry, they still pair well with Dragapult. Except instead of the 2-2-1 line we're seeing now, Japanese players have opted for a 2-1-1 line. Despite that very minor change, the list is pretty close to what we're going to see with Ascended Heroes. But with the loss of Hawlucha, they've become desperate to deal with Psyduck, even going so far as to run risky Ruins. Continuing the run of schizophrenic Dragapult lists, how about pairing it with Blaziken? The Hot Chicken accelerates an energy from the discard pile with its ability, meaning it can power up a naked Dragapult right away without the need of Crispin or Neo Upper Energy. Finally, the 4th successful combo is Dragapult with Team Rocket's Crobat EX. If you want to spread damage counters, Crobat's one way to do it, I guess. I won't say it's a good one, but at the very least it can attack via Neo Upper, which isn't actually very exciting. I guess my favorite part about what's happening to Dragapult post-rotation is that no one can determine what the best list is. In our pre-rotation meta, it's 2 Badoo, Dusknoir, Hawlucha, and a bunch of annoying cards like Countercatcher and Ino. My least favorite part is that regardless of who the dragon is paired with, it's still a top 3 deck. And once players figure out what has the best matchup across the board, it might be over for all of us. It's crazy to say this out loud, but the #1 performing single prize deck so far post-rotation in Japan is Thwackey Dipplin. Remember, with Festival Grounds in play, both Dipplin and Seaking can attack twice in a turn. So against single prize decks, they can potentially take 2 knockouts per turn. While the damage output of Dipplin and Seaking is quite low at first, topping out at 160 respectively, add a couple of modifiers and you can deal with Megas. By combining both Kieran and Brave Bangle, all of a sudden Dipplin can deal 160 damage twice to EXs. Unfortunately, that's still short on, say, Mega Starmie. In that case, you can run Black Belt's Training, which has a nice feat art coming in Ascended Heroes, or Maximum Belt. Just be aware that Japanese players are leaning more towards Secret Box, Unfair Step, and Legacy Energy as their ace-spec, not the belt. Regardless, thanks to Thwackey's ability to find any card in your deck so long as the festival leader is in the active, finding your one-ofs is super easy, actually an inconvenience if they're prized. Easily the spiciest card is 1 copy of Rillaboom. Because Cornerstone Masked Ogerpon is such a problem walling all of your attackers, you need someone without an ability. Rillaboom does 60 damage for a single grass, which isn't much, but add Brave Bangle and Kieran to the mix and you're good to go. Just like Lucario, the list isn't all that different post-rotation. While some first place lists I saw gambled hard with just 3 lilies, I like this one the best since it has 4. Add in 2 Brock Scouting alongside 4 Poffin and 4 Pokepad, and the odds of having a bad turn 1 are lower than my expectations during last call. My main issue with that previous list is the 3-2 line of Seaking. I think it should never be higher than a 2-1 because Dipplin's your main attacker. Goldine's mostly just there so you have access to a basic festival leader. This version ups the count of your most important Pokemon while also going with Secret Box as the ace spec. Since Thwackey can find Cedar Box pretty much whenever you want, which in turn gives you a Stadium supporter item and tool, it's perfect for ensuring a strong turn. The main thing holding this deck back is all those abilities. A Frostlass Monkey Dory player has to be riding the struggle bus all day to lose against you, meaning Mega Starmie is the gatekeeper to this deck's success. Similar to Mega Lucario and Dipplin, Garchomp loses nothing of importance to rotation. You might be noticing a theme here with the upper echelon of decks. Consistency and power for low amounts of energy equals strong finishes, just like when she calls me the #1 PTCGL player of all time. As always, once you get a single Gabite into play, the deck kinda runs itself. Then Garchomp's dealing upwards of 190 damage with 3 Roserade in play while also drawing you up to 6. Add in Premium Power Pro, that can cross 300. And don't forget about Power Weight, which gives Garchomp 400 hit points. Or Spiritomb, who can deal massive damage if a couple of your Pokemon are hurt. Realistically, there's only 2 issues with Garchomp. 1, you might not do anything for a couple turns. And 2, Draconic Buster requires 2 fighting in a deck without much acceleration. Neo Upper Energy helps, but that's your ace spec and can only be manually found in most lists with Hilda. We are getting Rose's Encouragement in perfect order though, which accelerates 2 fighting from the discard pile to Garchomp, so it's not all bad. Oh, and I guess the third negative is that you rely heavily on Garchomp to draw you cards with Corkscrew Dive, so if you get a rough starting hand, you're pretty much cooked. Another eerily similar list to what you play right now, Garchomp hasn't exactly been winning tournaments. Don't get me wrong, it's doing well, it's just closer to the 1990s Buffalo Bills than the 2000s and 2010s Patriots and hopefully not the 2020s Patriots. While it's lacking Shaman and Rock Fighting energy for the Alakazam matchup, I like this list because it doesn't mess around. Instead of worrying about what they're doing, you just enact your strategy and hope. Plus, with Neo Upper and Rosas, you can Draconic Bust at least twice, which I haven't done in years. Then we have the deck I'm most excited to see in the top 10, Team Rocket's Honchkrow with Porygon. Team Rocket's decks always had an advantage going into rotation thanks to Archer. With Ino gone, Archer becomes the best hand disruption supporter in Standard. Add an Ariana for a drop to 8, Giovanni for a Gust and Switch, Proton for a way to find 3 basics, Factory to draw 2 after playing a supporter, and Transceiver to find a supporter, and you have arguably the most consistent post-rotation deck. As a quick reminder, Honchkrow does 60 damage times the number of Team Rocket supporters you discard from your hand, all for a Team Rockets or Ignition energy. The deck plays 20 total, so it's easy to deal 360 damage at least twice per game. Then once the graveyard is filled up like the first guy to discover you can get milked by sucking on a cow's udders, the Porygon show up dealing 20 damage for each of them in there. I was definitely high on Honchkrow when it was first revealed, but single prize decks have been in not the best place right now because of stupid Dragapult. With Dragapult losing some of its oomph, it might be the Crow's time to fly. Oh, and if you're worried about Phantom Dive destroying your bench, Team Rocket's Articuno protects your basics from effects of attacks. It does nothing to help your evolutions, but at the very least it might slow them down. Okay, say it with me now. I know is a lie and I will like every Trust Your Pilot video. Also, the deck loses nothing of importance to rotation. You include 4 of each supporter, 4 Pokepad to find your evolutions after protoning for the basics, and well, that's about it. The only interesting inclusion is Survival Brace. Obviously, you'll struggle against a Frostlass Monkey Dory player who knows what they're doing, but against someone like Lucario, they'll have to 2-shot your Honchkrow. And if you don't evolve any of your basics on the bench against Dragapult, they can't Phantom Dive anyone sitting in the back. One aspect of the Pokemon trading card game that doesn't get enough credit is the cost. Assuming the price of Honchkrow isn't insane at Ascended Heroes launch, you can build the thing for about $10, take it to a tournament, and do well. I guess I should also mention that if you're ever going to find a use for Roto-Stick or Miracle Headset, this is the deck. For the final post-rotation A-tier deck of the first weekend in Japan, we have Grimmsnarl. Though if Thwackey Dipplin continues to perform well, this might end up like the Toy Story meme where everyone ditches the hairy tail creature for the long-legged starfish. Winning lists have completely foregone Mega Frostlass and backslid to basics, simply playing Grimmsnarl with Baby Frostlass, Monkey-Dory, and Badoo. Just remember that Grimmsnarl isn't escaping rotation unscathed, with Arven, De-Evolution, Countercatcher, and Ino all getting removed. Otherwise, the strategy remains the same. Manually attach the Monkey Dory, let it get hurt by Frostlass, then come and swing you a Grimmsnarl for 180 to their active and 30 to the bench using Spiked Myth to find the line. Sadly, at least for Grimmsnarl, the prophecy has come true. Hetrol is the Arven replacement. While it's a shadow of the best character from Scarlet and Violet, it can find any trainer, including Stadium, so that's something. But things are so tough on the supporter side, players are resorting to things like Iris's Fighting Spirit and even Carmine. Naturally, no one in Japan can agree on the counts of anything except the 4 copies of Monkey Dory. I'm opting to show off this list because it has a sane 3-3 line of Frostlass rather than an insane 2-2 line of Frostlass I saw in others. You can definitely tell Pokemon TCG Live isn't available in Japan by looking at some of these Grimmsnarl lists. Anyway, in addition to the A-Spec being anything from Secret Box to Deluxe Bomb to Unfair Stamp, Grimmsnarl has access to a lot of potential partners. I personally think a single copy of the Retreat Locking Yveltal is a good idea, though against Starmie and Surfing Beach it's useless unless you can win the Stadium War. As for the B-tier post-rotation decks in Japan, we have Mewtwo, Spidops, Alakazam, Archaludon, Zoroark, and Venusaur. I personally would slot Grimmsnarl in here as well because I'm worried about its future prospects. And it does kind of seem like Zoroark should be higher, no? Whatever the case, let me quickly go through each of these. First up, Mewtwo Spidops. Just like Honchkrow, it has access to some of the best supporters in Standard. Plus, Mewtwo hits Lucario and Dragapult for weakness, while Spidops is just a great single prize attacker. The issue with Mewtwo is that it tops out at 280 damage, something Honchkrow doesn't have to worry about. And you basically have to play Lily's Clefairy and Fezandipiti, who hurt the power of Ariana. Maximum Belt would be a better A-Spec, allowing you to one-shot Mega Starmie, but Frostlass can easily win that matchup without either Mega since you have to fill up your side of the field to attack with Mewtwo in the first place. Since the dawn of time, Alakazam has hated Frostlass. Both Kadabra and Alakazam have abilities and low HP, making them easy fodder. Plus, both Mist Energy and Rock Fighting Energy will exist in Standard at the same time, meaning you basically have to run 2 Enhanced Hammer if you don't want to just auto-lose against certain decks. On the plus side, Telepath Psychic Energy is insane, essentially giving you access to more Buddy Poppin'. Now, as much as I hate it because Togekiss never works for me and always works for them, it seems to be a necessary evil like wearing socks in winter. Togekiss can simply shorten games, allowing you to win in as little as 2 knockouts. Assuming you don't hit a Frostlass deck, Alakazam's in great shape post-rotation. This particular list doesn't have Psyduct, which seems necessary, but it draws a ton of cards and hits super hard in a format without Iono. Archaludon, meanwhile, is probably the most boring top post-rotation deck. It loses Turo and Earthen Vessel, meaning you have to rely heavily on Energy Search and Ultra Ball. And something like Naveen has snuck into certain lists, though it's fairly weak as a pure card drawer. Provided you get energy in the discard pile, you just do normal Archaludon things. Accelerate energy into play with its ability, try to survive a hit, copy Raging Hammer thanks to Relicanth, and finish the game with Mega Mawile. Despite including Larry's skill, there's very little involved here. While we're still a few days away from even beginning to test out End Zoroark with End Zekrom, Japan has already moved on to our next format. Yet how you build Zoroark in March is close to how you do it starting on Thursday with Ascended Heroes. Draw a bunch of cards with Trade, accelerate energy by playing with End's PP multiple times, then choose between Zekrom's 250 damage attack, Darmanitan's 90-90 spread, or Reshiram's powerful Rage, letting you hit for huge numbers if they fail to KO a Zoroark. If I had to guess why it isn't higher on the list, it's the damn 280 hit points of Zoroark plus the grass weakness in a Dipplin world. Hero's Cape can only do so much, especially when binding Mochi is so important. I imagine we'll see a shift towards 2 Munkidori and Gravity Mountain, but if grass continues to do well, Zoroark might fade faster than my ex-wife's ability to laugh at my amazing jokes. Finally, Mega Venusaur. Like me when I attempted a marathon, my hatred of the Jungle Dumper is a running joke. It's never been a bad deck on paper. It's just that when I get my fingers in it on TCG Live, Venusaur lives up to its name and takes a huge dump. While there was a first place list that played Crustle, which I don't mind, this version with Regigigas and Psyduck tickles my toes a bit more. Reggie one-shots Dragapult, Ogerpon deals with everybody else, and Pokepad increases the consistency alongside Bug Catching Set. I did also see a good list with Mega Meganium and Mega Kangaskhan, which help improve the attack power and draw power. It's just that retreating the Kangaroo becomes a bit of an issue. And there you have it. While it's a bit like the Wild West right now in Japan, aside from Starmie, most of the top decks people are predicted to do well post-rotation are doing well post-rotation. Now, I recognize that the positive of Japan's rotation being 2 months ahead of ours is also the biggest negative, in that we won't be able to experiment like we're in college and just learn what feet can do. The format will mostly be solved by the time March 26 rolls around. Still, with 2 months to go until we lose all the G-Block cards, don't be surprised if the top 10 looks a little different. Until then, let me know in the comments which deck not on the list you think will end up rising like a Skywalker.